Senior soldier Nikitin Alexander Alexandrovich served in military unit 714. Subdivision separate ATGM company. Position assigned senior ATGM operator. March 22nd, 2022. While walking down the street, I was approached by two TCC officers armed with Kalashnikov rifles. They stopped me and started asking for my documents. I showed them. After that, I tried to walk away from them because they told me, now we're going to issue you a draft notice. I tried to run away, but it didn't work out because when I got a bit away, they pointed their rifles at my back. They were already loaded. I had to come back and they did issue the draft notice. And the next day, I went to the military enlistment office to undergo the military medical commission.
Did you understand that they were sending you to war where you could be killed?
Yes, absolutely. And
do you think it was more dangerous with the TCC officers or at war?
The critical point to understand is that in the initial months of the ongoing conflict, the various news outlets and media organizations were extensively reporting and discussing the pervasive presence of clandestine saboteurs who were actively roaming throughout the entire city. These individuals were deliberately leaving behind distinctive and suspicious marks, which were widely believed to be crucial indicators that supposedly allowed the enemy forces to precisely target our locations and infrastructure. Consequently, if I were to resist their orders or attempt to flee a significant distance, they would undoubtedly have the justification to shoot me on sight and subsequently claim that I was in fact one of those dangerous and subversive saboteurs, thereby legitimizing their actions. The next day, I went to the military enlistment office. I understood that I was going to war. No one thought it would last this long.
And what was being said in the media in general?
At first they tried to somehow smooth over the real situation, that the Russian army was advancing but not very quickly, that supposedly they had neither the resources nor the skills nor anything for an offensive. And as for the Ukrainian army itself, it's supposedly the most battle-hardened in the world. And in general, they were saying this war would last just a couple of months. A bus took us to near Desna, that's a training center in the Chernihiv region, and there they started assigning people to different places. I was assigned to the 1966 Brigade, a separate anti-tank missile company. And there we began training for the next month and a half.
How did the training go?
At first they taught us the theory. Then the instructors came and they took us to Desna itself. There in the barracks they had special classrooms equipped with simulators. Fagot, Stugna, Javelin. There were also Milans, I think, or something similar. But we didn't have them in our arsenal, so we didn't use them. The brigade commander is Lieutenant Colonel Selivakin Rostislav Alexandrovich. I haven't personally interacted with him. However, it is widely acknowledged and frequently said that he is indeed a very strict and unyielding man. And while the current brigade commander might still be inclined to show some degree of mercy and understanding in certain situations, the newly appointed chief of staff is absolutely and completely ruthless, especially towards those individuals he unequivocally considers to be flagrantly violating his clearly established and meticulously detailed orders and directives.
How did you manage to win over Pozvony?
I don't know Pozvony. That's also Lieutenant Colonel Vitaly Lisko. Unfortunately, I don't remember his patronymic. Well,
and what does his attitude look like?
His attitude, especially since he became the brigade's chief of staff, is basically to sacrifice as many people as possible. That is, those who don't want to risk their lives for his ambitions end up in the penal unit. Unauthorized abandonment of happiness. Are there many others? Before Lisko became chief of staff, we had about 77 people. Now we don't even have 40 left.
Are all the penal unit members running away?
Mostly, yes. Some were wounded so badly they couldn't continue serving. And there was one prisoner, but now I'm the second one. I ended up on the front line after training when we were already moved to Kurakhove. And that's where we were stationed. We were stationed at a farm in Kurakhove. That was our base. And our combat missions were near Marinka. At that time it was one of the scariest places.
Why?
Because the artillery was working very intensely and accurately there on us. Only the lucky ones survived there. And those individuals who did manage to survive, their entire psyche was clearly and profoundly changed. Not for the better.
Well, let me tell you in more detail.
Those individuals who were once consistently calm and composed became noticeably jumpy, easily agitated, and increasingly irritable. They also became more prone to excessive drinking, and in some cases, even to the dangerous habit of illicit drug use. Those who were already like that started drinking, using drugs, and freaking out even more. What's exactly the right word for that particular thing, you know? Panicking. When we realized nothing would come of it there, we decided to try our luck near Sloviansk, the Lyman direction. My primary combat job was to personally spot enemy equipment myself as well, you see, using the reference points I'd been given before. And if they spotted something, anything at all, they would immediately shoot. If the drone operators noticed something significant or unusual, they would then promptly contact our commanders, and the commanders would subsequently give me the precise coordinates of exactly where to expect it to appear. And if the equipment moved out into open ground or into a spot where it could be hit, I would take the shot. I have 4 vehicles to my credit. I was only able to hit equipment when it was out in the open or in gaps between the trees. I was firing from a Fagot. That time I hit, what's it called properly, a Mataliga, an MTLB. There was no one on top, I saw that for sure, because the Fagot doesn't work at long range. Stugna. I carefully fired the Stugna missile system precisely at dusk, utilizing an advanced thermal imager for accurate targeting. It was some kind of tracked vehicle, I think maybe a self-propelled gun or something, but it was definitely tracked. With the Javelin, I also hit a self-propelled gun and a tank. One particularly interesting thing, and indeed the primary reason I absolutely would not recommend anyone consider joining the army, is multifaceted. First and foremost, it's the pervasive influence of the high command, which consistently issues completely senseless, illogical, and often dangerous orders. For instance, in my own personal experience, they gave us an utterly absurd directive, explicitly telling us to hold a critical defensive position with an incredibly insufficient force of just 2 people. And to make matters worse, without the absolutely necessary and adequate amount of ammunition required to effectively defend ourselves or our position. It's just being in a particular place where, as an ATGM operator, you are completely and utterly useless, with no real purpose. This has become a very common occurrence for us. Some of these commanders are also very far from being decent people. Indeed, they can even beat you. That's my esteemed platoon commander, the highly respected senior lieutenant Diktyar Igor Sergeyevich. Out of our small, dedicated group of 5 individuals, they bravely sent several courageous people to valiantly defend a critically important fortified position under the relentless and overwhelming assault of truly large, formidable storm groups, which were demonstrably superior in their sheer numbers, their advanced weaponry, and their abundant ammunition compared to our own limited resources and capabilities. They didn't just have assault rifles. We only had assault rifles, that's all they gave us. They threw mines and grenades at us and also just fired at us with assault rifles. They even tried to throw TM mines into our dugout. But I just surrendered in time. I didn't make it. On March the 28th in the year 2025, there was yet another significant assault that occurred in the early morning hours. We fought back for about an hour and a half, but we only thought we were fighting back. We were actually shooting from the dugout. We didn't know where we were shooting. When I realized we were running out of ammo, we only had half a box left. For 5 people, that's not enough. Really not enough. So I said, guys, instead of dying for the ambition of some jerk, it's better to surrender and let whatever happens, happen. At least we'll live a little longer. Better than just sitting here. They're about to drop something really powerful on us. And then no one will be able to dig us out, nothing will be found. I was the first to come out of the dugout with my hands up. But of course, they immediately started giving me instructions on what to do and how to do it. You know, so we wouldn't make any sudden moves. For example, lie face down on the ground, go where they tell you, always keep your hands visible. Then my second comrade came out and they did exactly the same procedure with him. They interrogated us there. And those three, for some reason, the remaining infantrymen who had just recently started their combat duty, in general, for some reason, they hesitated, got confused, and said that as a result, they were removed for that.
How did our soldiers treat you?
The senior soldiers treated us, in general, well, like human beings. It's absolutely nothing like what we were explicitly told by the military commanders, the mainstream media, or just by simple word of mouth. And what exactly did they
Tell you.
They told us about all sorts of atrocities supposedly committed against our prisoners.
Do you think you were lucky that it all ended like this for you?
I think so. I'm alive, and that's what matters most. Life is more valuable than some idea or the ambitions of a few bastards.
Do you want to be exchanged?
I do want to be exchanged, but I won't go back to the army. If I get the chance.
And who will decide that?
We have a law. I don't remember the number though. We have a law, though I can't recall its number by heart. And there it lists the grounds for discharge from the army. One of them is if you've been exchanged. Well, if you were a prisoner and got exchanged. But I don't know how it works in practice. I guess I'll have to find a way to slip away. Definitely leave the country this time, even if it's through the woods.
Is there anyone actually waiting for you to come back?
There's my aunt, my mother's sister. She's the only relative who's waiting for her.
So what about your family?
I don't have a family of my own. I didn't know my father, and my mother died of cancer 4 years ago.
A girlfriend?
No, I don't have one.
A boyfriend then?
Even less so.
And I truly don't know. Do you happen to have anyone there? Perhaps a close friend or colleague? Are there significant relationships like that? Meaningful connections between men in the 66th precinct?
Maybe there are.
Well, damn. Maybe there are some rumors?
No, I mean, officially, this whole topic is condemned, but who knows what people are up to behind closed doors.
What's the scariest or most memorable reason for you?
The absolute scariest thing I vividly remember from that time is when a truly devastating Fab bomb hit. I honestly have no idea, even to this day, how I miraculously survived that horrific event. It was nothing short of a genuine miracle. We had just barely managed to set up our position, and somehow, inexplicably, they precisely figured out exactly where we were located. And right before it actually hit, not long before, I distinctly heard this incredibly loud, piercing and continuous hissing sound that kept getting progressively louder and louder, growing in intensity. And then, quite suddenly, from directly behind me, I was violently hit by a truly powerful and immense shockwave. It was so incredibly strong and forceful that it almost completely threw me out of the protective trench I was deeply entrenched in. Our essential equipment was utterly destroyed and rendered completely useless, and we ourselves were almost entirely wiped out and eliminated. I have no idea how we got so lucky. After that, once we had somewhat recovered our composure, my comrade and I patiently waited until things had cleared up a bit more, until we could at least breathe freely and see a little way ahead clearly. I said, we absolutely need to leave this place and immediately tell the neighbors behind us, because if they've found us, they certainly won't leave us alone. Not for a moment. That's exactly what we did.
Tell me a little bit about the current group of people you have now. How exactly would you assess their overall condition?
The group is of different ages, you could even say from different social backgrounds, well, in civilian life. But mostly they're working class guys, though there are a couple of businessmen who, for some reason, ended up going to war. There were also some bunnies, former bunnies, at least definitely former ones. There were also, as they say, street thugs, something like that. And there are a lot of villagers too, a lot of people from rural areas. The idea.
Did you see any officials there? Maybe the president's nephews?
No, you don't see them.
In fact,
In Ukraine, if I'm exchanged, I'll most likely be prosecuted and sentenced. Well, during wartime, a sentence is just a formality now. They're also recruiting from prisons, both voluntarily and forcibly, to send people to the front. And they're sending them to the hottest spots, from which, well, there's a 99.9% chance you won't come back.
and why do you think you were being persecuted?
First of all, we have an article in the criminal code. I think it's not 408, that's desertion, but another one in the 400s, about voluntary surrender as a prisoner of war.
According to...
But you can be convicted. Well, there's a nuance, of course. It's about voluntary surrender without putting up a fight first. But who's really going to look into that?
Well, look, the situation here doesn't change that quickly.
Time.
Might not pass quickly enough for the war to be over. And the authorities that would judge you now, as you say, might not even be in power anymore. It's quite possible that you'll come back home and there will already be a different, free country there.
Not
to wait, to live, to work in peace.
Well, I can say one thing, Ukraine will never be the same as it was before the war. First of all these feelings, all this venting of anger at the military, not at the civilians who didn't support the military, all of that will last for a very long time. And especially those who surrendered or deserted won't be liked or welcomed at all. You think so? Yes, because we're really strict about this. You know, our citizens are told by the media that our army is invincible, and then suddenly people are surrendering voluntarily as prisoners. That's something else. How can that be?
Well, it seems to me you've just become a victim of your own propaganda. But things aren't actually as bad as you think in terms of how people understand the situation.
Well, the people...
Maybe outwardly they say, yes, we're all patriots, but deep down people still understand that we haven't won this war.
Not at all.
And I'll even tell you this, something quite important. Our dedicated viewers from Ukraine, even judging by the numerous and heartfelt comments they consistently leave on the various videos, they all frequently write things like, well done, you have successfully surrendered, you have wisely stayed alive, and you will undoubtedly go back home to your families and your lives, expressing a clear sentiment of approval and understanding for the difficult choices made. They understand that this isn't their war, that ordinary people don't need it at all. And here your task is to preserve your lives, especially for young people like you, so that later, from the outside, there will be a need to rebuild and working hands will be needed. That's why welders are working. I think after the war, welders won't be needed anymore.
No, of course they'll be needed. The only question is whether I want to do that, to rebuild. Because as they say, they didn't give me a deferment, even though they promised at the factory. And now, after I fought and almost died several times, especially the last time, and now you expect me to rebuild all of this for you? No way. I don't think so. I'm going to try to dodge that.
It's actually your government that's to blame, not the people. Actually, that's why our war started in the first place, because your president didn't keep his promises, and in trying to hold on to power, he's throwing you into this kind of meat grinder. And what is he guilty of exactly? Well, in fact, the people are only guilty of putting up with all this, of not yet taking up arms, including even people like you, who are going to the slaughter instead of turning around, marching on Kiev, and overthrowing this criminal regime that's destroying the country. It's not the Russian army that's destroying the country, it's your government that's destroying the country. Alright? The main thing is for you to understand this as soon as possible, then maybe we can still save at least something. There was an exchange of bodies of fallen soldiers recently. Our country handed over to Ukraine 900, how many? 909? In exchange, we received 43. You don't have any losses, do you?
They only tell us that we have some kind of cyborgs.
This
obvious greatest.
Approximately 25 or 23 bodies of deceased civilians were tragically returned from those taken from Kursk. This egregious act is unequivocally called kidnapping.
I don't understand at all what the point of the Kursk operation was. Absolutely. If here, along the line of contact, it can still be presented as a liberation, zvільнення, as we say, then the Kursk operation makes no sense to me at all. Why was this Suja even necessary, and what was the point of it? After all, those who are advancing usually suffer greater losses, especially considering that our forces are not as well equipped and have fewer personnel. To impulsively storm forward in such a perilous case, especially when not even positioned at the front line of engagement but purely and directly into a deeply hostile area, is nothing short of sheer madness.
Zelensky clearly wanted to show that he could still effectively do something. It's much easier to fight against innocent civilians. So, what exactly do you think truly needs to be done for this devastating war to finally end?
For this war to end, people first and foremost need to think and be honest with themselves. What are they choosing? A peaceful life, or all of this that keeps going on? If they choose a peaceful life, the government needs to be changed. After all, you already showed once that you can change the government. I mean, the Maidan in 2014. So show it this time too. But something's not working out this time.
On the American side, I'm not helping. To change the government,
like it was in 14
in the year.
I don't know such details. That's already high politics.
So everywhere. No one looks at the essence of the problems. Everyone is content with only what propaganda shows, the surface.
I can say one thing. The fundamental root of all of Ukraine's persistent problems is the unfortunate reality that the Ukrainian people too often allow unscrupulous scoundrels to rise to positions of power and influence above them, thereby perpetuating cycles of mismanagement.
To rule.
Yeah, to rule. You could say that. First, they elect just anyone or let just anyone rise to the top, and then they themselves endure it, and songs on the bandura appear about the hard Ukrainian fate.
Some kind of masochism, right?
That's about right.
Alright, good. Is there anyone you want to send a message to, any relatives? You can't say something to Aunt Komandova, please, of course.
I want to send greetings to my aunt, Nikitina Nadezhda Fedorovna. I'm alive. Maybe I'll be exchanged someday. So, just wait. For now, everything is fine. We'll see what happens next.
Say something to the team, just a little.
What am I supposed to say to them? They abandoned me, basically. I don't even want to know them, even after all this.
Well, in a brotherly way, in my own brotherly way.
The only thing, yes, I can address my brothers in arms. Guys, you really should think better about where you're going, why, and for what, who you're listening to, and what you can get out of it. And if you don't want to end up where I am now, talking to you from here, then stop doing this. It would be better to just go to Sochi and somehow swim across the river. At least try to do that.
Sasha, I'll tell you, your situation right now is far from the worst option. In the place where you ended up. Out of everything that could have happened to you, this is probably the best outcome. Otherwise, you'd be lying now in a damp grave, listed as missing without a trace. No one would even have done anything about it. Well, your aunt would have come to see you. Maybe she would have called your unit. She would have asked, how's my Sashko doing? And they would have told her, yes, everything's fine. He's out on a mission.
Everything's okay. It's just that he hasn't made contact for half a year.
He hasn't been in touch for half a year.
Well, for example, that's what they'd say to her. And
for someone who's been killed, they have to pay compensation.
But if you're missing in action, you're neither alive nor dead. So in that case, no compensation at all.
So Sashko ends up in a damn grave. No compensation, no report, right? It just gets hidden by the higher-ups. That's how it turns out. And as far as losses go, everything looks fine. The commander gets promoted. And there's no need to pay any money. Yeah, that's right. Just a little bit. Unfortunately, that's how things are for us right now.